we have a unique position in the world today, that God's people are being called to be of servants.
Widower ministry started in 2016 when we as a church became aware that we were not adequately meeting the needs and ministering to the men who lost their wives. Back then, as now, the deaconess did a good job of ministering and visiting widows, but nobody was visiting the widowers on a regular basis. Dr. Rogers came to me and asked me if I'd be willing to help develop a widowers ministry, to join another member of our congregation. We soon found out that we were not capable to do this by ourselves. At that time, we had 35 widowers in our church. So we recruited other caring members, men, husbands and wives, who had a heart to serve. We now have 12 teams visiting 18 different widowers. We have 2 teams assigned to each widower. That way, the responsibilities do not fall on one team's shoulder. Over the years, we ministered to over 45 widowers here in our church. From the widowers ministry, we developed a grief share program to meet the needs of both men and women helped through the grieving process. What do we do in this ministry? We build relationships. We build relationships by visiting these men, calling these men, taking them to lunch or inviting them to our house for dinner. Anything we can do to show them that we care. Some of these men have relatives in the area. Some of these men do not. Some of these men live by themselves. Some live in a retirement community. During the pandemic, it was very hard for these men. They couldn't get out and we couldn't visit. They really looked forward and appreciated our phone calls. How can you get involved? If you're a caring person, you have a few minutes per month to make a phone call or write a note. That's all it takes, just a few minutes. Or a few hours to make a visit or invite them to dinner or take them out to lunch. Anything you can do to show them that you care.
We've become involved in the ministry. I've met people that I really didn't know all that well, but as we shared visits or even, as you mentioned, phone calls, that has been, for right now, for some of the changes in people's health, that has been the avenue to at least try to be in touch. And even your card, this just send a card is just saying I care and we're of the body.
Working in senior living for 44 years, I really saw countless people that had become very lonely over time. It happens gradually. You don't realize it's happening until you're in the midst of it. And I thought that this ministry with widowers would be a great transition for me as I retired last fall, and it has absolutely been that. When I talk with folks, and I prefer to visit with them rather than phone calls, our conversation draws them into talking about what God has done through their lives. And it's enjoyable to hear how God has worked in their lives. And it's actually good for them to remember God's blessings through their life. And the more they talk about things like that, the more they are blessed as they remember what God has done for them. And that's very encouraging.